History of Aviation podcast with Derrick Beeler, David Rowe, and David Gorman.
Hello, friends, and welcome to the History of Aviation podcast. I'm Derrick Beeler, joined by Mr. David Rowe and Dave Gorman. On this episode 40, number 40, we'll be discussing the Bell 47.
And this is Dave Gorman, and the Bell 47 is a single-rotor, single-engine light helicopter manufactured by Bell Helicopter. It was based on the third Bell 30 prototype. It was the company's first helicopter designed by designer Arthur M. Young, and the 47 became the first helicopter certified for civilian use on the 8th of March of 1946.
Yeah, and it's quite a legendary helicopter. You've seen it on TV. You've seen it, for 40 years almost. Just everywhere you look, it's somewhere to be seen. That Arthur Young designer guy, he was a pretty smart fellow, apparently. I was looking back at some videos of him. He just up and decided he was going to make a helicopter. And he studied for 12 years. He worked on it. And there's videos of him with little model helicopters that are nothing more than just like a pyramid with made out of metal and a helicopter blade on top. And it's flopping around and just going crazy. And he creates the fly bar, gets some stability in it. When he got that figured out, he made a little model, a literal remote control model, and figured out how to fly it. And then he took it to Bell and introduced it to Mr. Bell. And he was like, yeah, this will work. Let's get started on it. And the next thing you know, we've got this helicopter.
Yeah, it's pretty fantastic when you think about it. We mentioned this was the first one certified for civilian use. It obviously, and we're going to get to it soon, saw military application quite a bit, and that may be its most famous role. But, there were some other military helicopters that were already out there in development and use, even some in World War II that saw some limited use on our side. The Germans had some that they were working on as well. But this is an iconic design, familiar to viewers of TV shows like MASH. And I first became aware of this thing when the Batman movie, which we were talking about a little bit before we came on the air here. The idea of Batman scaling down the rope and fighting off a shark while dangling underneath the Batcopter. But what a cool invention it was! What a cool bat toy that he had. I saw another reference. I forgot all about it, but a Bell 47 was used in Thunderball, which the James Bond movie with that opening scene with the Vulcan being hijacked and everything. So it's been around a lot, and really a very familiar helicopter. Also, the only helicopter I've ever personally flown in is a Bell 47.
Really?
So, oh yeah.
Well, you should do something and rectify that. There's a few others out there.
Well, I absolutely can, and hopefully that is a goal and a resolution for 2024 is to get a little bit more vertical rotor time in. I'll have some opportunities hopefully at some shows this year. The 47 I flew in was up at Oshkosh. That is a bargain. I forget what it was, maybe $70 for a 10-minute flight, but it's fantastic, that big bubble canopy. Definitely worth the time.
Well, speaking of Oshkosh and AirVenture, I watched a little walk around video that they did of the Bell 47 that they use up there. They actually have three. They've got two with wooden propellers or blades, and one with metal blades. And they said they fly 3,000 people in a week in those Bell 47s. So those things are moving all week long.
Well, and considering that for 5 hours a day or 4 hours a day, they've got flight operations with the air show going on. They're not flying all day. They're getting it in before the flying begins for the main show, and sometimes in the evening. And it's just awesome, and it's definitely worth the time and trouble to take a flight over. And just look at the 10,000 aircraft on the field. It's a great platform for taking video and pictures and everything. It's fantastic.
Well, yeah, speaking of visibility, it's got that giant soap bubble looking, canopy in front. So, I mean, visibility is, every direction. It's clear.
When you think about that and you compare it to some of the earlier helicopters or contemporary helicopters, this really was a forward-thinking as well as forward-looking design. That, as you said, soap bubble. It's supreme visibility in that thing. So, of its time, there were some other helicopters that had some metal framing that really kind of limited the forward visibility to what you might see in a standard aircraft. This one was really an outlier.
Well, and as a matter of fact, it did actually come. So the Model B, it came with a metal frame fuselage around it. It wasn't the open bubble. So they did have some models that were enclosed.
Yeah, we should say this is the 47G that has the bubble, right?
Correct. Yeah, it's sort of the military version. The military is what went with the full bubble, and some of the earlier ones were more conventional looking.
Well, as we have seen in so many aircraft we profiled, the most successful ones usually didn't start off with their with all the features that they later became known for. So this was a work in progress as well, wasn't it?
Oh, absolutely. What was it? There's models A through H, a 47J Ranger, and then all the way up to the K model. Apparently, that was a luxury version that was really spiffy, and but it didn't fly. Didn't get many customers, I guess I should say. And so there, but I mean, all the way up to a K model. So that's a lot of time for variants and changes. And like you were saying, that G model was the one that seemed to have the most success. There were a lot of sub variants to the G, so it was the most popular of the bunch.
Yeah, and so some of those changes over time, which we'll delve into, included expanded seating from 2 seats to 4 seats, different engines, blades that went from wooden blades, composite, wooden and metal, and then I think all steel towards the end. Is that correct?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah. So, the development of this helicopter, forged in peacetime, coming out of peacetime, really, coming out of war into peacetime, and then
Yeah.
adapted for military use. And some of those changes became really essential to its success on the in Korea. And did I read also the first news helicopter was a Bell 47 with video from maybe traffic copter video from the air?
Exactly. It was called the Telecopter. It was for KTLA in Los Angeles, California. There was an inventor, John Silva, that put a vacuum tube system on the helicopter. And on what was it, July the 3rd of 1958, they went up and to do a live view from the sky, and apparently the shaking of the helicopter broke some of the vacuum tubes, so they couldn't do it that day. He had to repair it overnight, and so on July the 4th of 1958 was the actual first eye in the sky situation. So, and it was in a Bell 47, the Telecopter.
Well, in 10 years later, we were sending back video from the moon. So small steps.
Mm-hmm.
But it began with a Bell 47. Pretty cool.
Yeah, just an amazing platform that's huge capabilities for such a little helicopter. It's not a very big machine. It's just fairly simple, but man, it what all could it do? It was we did news gathering, crop dusting. It's a trainer. You could do power line patrols, aerial photography, search and rescue. I mean, this was another one that, when you've got capabilities, they put it to use.
Well, and again, sometimes those capabilities weren't discovered until the need arose, and it was adapted and pressed into service in lots and lots of different ways. I was particularly fascinated to see about one of these that landed on a mountaintop, I think in Switzerland or something at like 15,000 feet or 16,000 feet. A guy landed on Mont Blanc
Yeah.
in one of these. And I thought, well, the ceiling, and I guess he had oxygen available to him, but that's pretty good
It's
high
up there.
altitude operation. Yeah, absolutely. Good when
Yeah.
Derek said it's up there.
It's up there.
No
That is
doubt.
up there.
What was it? Was it 18,000 feet? Somebody flew it to, yeah, in 1949, a Bell 47 set an altitude record of 18,550 feet. So, yeah, it can go up there if it needs to.
Well, that's pretty amazing. Was that a company pilot that did that, or was that a military use? What was going on?
It just listed as a date and that somebody in a Bell did it. It doesn't give who was the pilot or anything. I don't have any further details.
I guarantee they sold some helicopters because of that
Oh
number.
yeah.
I'm sure they did. They sold a lot of them. They built over 5,000 of these things.
I was surprised at that number. I don't remember the first time I saw one in person. And it's not real common to see them at air shows. Oshkosh always has two or three that are in operation. In 2016, up at Thunder over Michigan, they had a helicopter dressed up somewhat like the Batcopter. They don't fly with the wings because that's not real conducive to lift anymore. But that there are all those that are out there. There's plenty of them that are still in use. There's a lot of them in museums. This is not a hard one to go and find, but seeing it perform in air shows or flying around, it's a thrill because it's an 80-year-old helicopter almost.
Right, it sure is. The wings on that Batcopter, the bat wings, they reduced the power by half when that was flying. So yeah, that is not something you want to fly around with regularly. That's a real hindrance to stable flight.
Well, I have to tell you, I was a little bit crushed to find out that Batman wasn't really at the controls of the Batcopter during the movie, or Robin while Batman was fighting off Derek crushed me, told me that was not a real shark. Is that what I'm hearing?
That's not. Yeah. I'm sorry.
But he had shark repellent. If it
He had
wasn't a real shark,
yes. Robin handed him down from shark repellent, if I remember correctly.
yeah, you cannot trust anything you see sometimes. You just
I
have to
know.
dig a little bit deeper. Some 5-year-old Dave is quietly sobbing on the inside today and learning the hard truth of Hollywood fakery. But what a cool thing. And so when I did see the Batcopter or a Bell 47G dressed up like the Batcopter at that air show a couple of years ago, I was a little bit more excited than maybe I should have been. Quite a thrill to see.
Yeah, well, it's a legend, the Batcopter. Come on, that's legendary machine right there.
Now,
Definitely.
the second huge and probably more familiar again, all right, Derek has put the video of Batman fighting the shark. Look at him go.
He's got him. I'm telling you.
So you're telling me that shark is not a real shark?
No.
Okay, I've got some thinking to do. I may need a little quiet time here. So, man, hey, did you know the name of the shark in Jaws?
No.
Oh.
Bruce, look it up. There you go. Okay, back to another famous use of the Bell 47. We were talking earlier about the Corsair and Baba Black Sheep a couple of episodes ago, and how men of a certain age, boys of a certain age, people of a certain age became enamored of the Corsair because of Baba Black Sheep. The media that introduced the Bell 47 to so many people across the country was MASH.
Yeah, MASH was a big one.
Yep.
TV show that dramatized the mobile army surgical hospital in Korea during the Korean War and made it, kind of a comedy and everything, but the seriousness of their mission and those helicopters coming through the mountains of California, as it turned out. But very iconic. They had the litters on the skids that they could carry. Doctors came up, ducked their head down, and checked on the patients that were in the litters. You saw this utility helicopter that was, being used to save lives. So you think about the development by Bell in late World War II, and then civilian certified right after World War II, and then being pressed into service in the military. It was the right helicopter at the right time for that kind of use, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. They, the Army saw the capabilities of it, and the Army Air Corps, which became the Air Force, they were the main people who were grabbing a hold of it. But yeah, they saw what it was capable of doing, and they modified it with those little, what do they call them? Medical evacuation panniers, one on each skid, and it had a little acrylic glass cover in front to break the wind off of the soldiers as they were flying through the air. And I was reading they could put, one on each side of the helicopter in those small beds, and they could put two people in the cockpit with the pilot. So it could literally carry up to four people at a time. So, you got two seriously wounded outside and two what they called walking wounded inside with the pilot. So, I mean, you need to get somewhere quick. This was the way to do it. It was much better than waiting for a vehicle to come and, drive you the 20 miles. You could just hop in a helicopter, and 10 minutes later, you're seeing some help.
Yeah, you mentioned that about the interior seating. The flight I took at Oshkosh, I was surprised that it was a bench and not like a bucket seat, so that they could have put three people in the cockpit, me, the pilot, and another guy. I'm a little on the hefty side. And so the pilot decided against adding another person to the cockpit, which was fine with me. It meant I had more room to shoot videos. So
absolutely. Well, one of the interesting things is did you know that the Bell 47 was actually an Air Force One, that President Dwight Eisenhower took a flight in the helicopter? It was for practice on a nuclear evacuation scenario. And they had the helicopter set up so the pilot sat in the front, the president sat to the right in the back, and a Secret Service agent sat on the left. So they had a different cockpit set up so that you could have all three of those people in the helicopter at one time. So it was technically Air Force One for the first time as a helicopter.
And don't they have, I guess, that exact helicopter up at the Air Force Museum as part of their Air Force One exhibit?
They do have one up there.
I have seen. Now that's the military. That's at the Sioux. What was that? The H-13.
Yes, H-13 Sioux.
So they have one up there that is painted that way. I'm almost certain I've seen it there. If not there, it's at Udvar Hazy in D.C. But I think it's part of the Air Force Museum's Air Force One collection.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, and the Udvar Hazy has three different ones. They actually have a Model 30 replica. I'm not sure if it's a replica or if it's real, but they've got a Model 30. They've got a B model, which is I think it was like the 36th helicopter built, and it flew for over 40 years. I think it has the record for the longest flight history of a helicopter. And then they've got a third one. I think it's a G model. But anyway, if you're in DC, there are multiple opportunities to see a Bell 47.
I was trying to see if there were any TV stations that still use one for their traffic coverage or news coverage. It seems now kind of quaint and kind of tiny compared to what they have, but you had guys in the cockpit with a camera on their shoulder pointing it out the window, and now they've got those cameras that they have mounted underneath that are all controlled by a computer that you can zoom in on. So probably a lot safer. You're not hanging out the soap bubble.
Well, exactly. Yeah, you don't. stick your head out. That's not the smartest way to do it these days. I think most of the helicopters that are still in service are used in crop dusting. I think that has the reason this helicopter is still around is because of its capabilities in the crop dusting area. There's a lot of them out there in the countryside doing that.
Well, it certainly is with that type of use. That's easy to control and easy to turn and good low altitude handling and everything like that with crop pesticide application or whatever you might be applying from the skies. So that would make sense.
Oh yeah. An interesting little tidbit. So Arthur Young designed the sway bar on the up underneath the blades. There's a weight that goes 90 degrees to it, and he created that to create some stability in the blades as they rotate. Well, one of the things that they were talking about with the crop dusters is they'll remove that sway bar because it weighs about 30 pounds, and you can add 30 more pounds of whatever they're spraying to the helicopter. So it's a little harder to control, but you get more weight and, you can carry more. And as a crop duster, that's exactly what they're looking for. So that was an interesting thing is they're, removing some stability, but yet gaining more capability.
Well, I guess if you know what you're doing, that seems to make sense, that kind of trade-off.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, that Arthur Young got a patent out of that sway bar. So when he created it, he earned a patent on it. So
pretty impressive. Well, I know when I fly again on a 47 up at Oshkosh, I'll be sure to look up and confirm that the sway bar is still there. I'll feel safer.
Yeah, definitely. Did you know that NASA flew the Bell 47?
Well, I saw a reference about Gene Cernan, that he had a kind of famous accident. I think he put it down in a canal. There was some training that was done on this helicopter. I guess some of the controls were set up perhaps as like a simulator or something where they were training for some maneuvering on the lunar module. And he was not long before his mission, I think. He had a crack up and was it wasn't as bad as Chuck Yeager and the broken ribs before his flight that was dramatized in the right stuff, but he got banged up, didn't he?
Correct. Yeah, he crashed into the Indian River in Florida in 1971, and it was just a few weeks before he was supposed to launch. So yeah, he got lucky there and still made his flight.
Well, was I correct about that? Was it used as like a simulator for the lunar module? Is that what you saw?
Yeah, it was a trainer for the lunar lander. So I don't know exactly what they how they changed it, but it was used in their training for landing for the lunar lander.
Goodness gracious. Well, that flying bedstead, they got that thing that flies. So this had to be a much safer alternative for some of their needs.
Yeah, that bedstead thing was crazy looking. When you climbed on that, you just had to know there was waiting for something to go wrong.
Well, by 1970 or 71, you were saying, this helicopter was already 25 years old.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It's such a versatile machine. And some of these, in MASH, the pictures that we have behind us, we see with that open frame of the fuselage. But these were also designed to be covered up, right?
Yes, absolutely. The civilian versions were typically clad in, metal skin. They had a cockpit around them. They had doors. They had a smaller window area. So there were several they had wheels. Some of the civilian ones had actual wheels instead of the skids.
Yeah.
So there were multiple versions of this, through development. If you look at them, they almost look like a 50s design. Some of the way the car looked in the 50s, this is kind of how the helicopter looked. It had that 50s vibe going around it because that was the design style of the day.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, they definitely had, everything going from front to back clad. But for military purposes, that's not necessary. They just need the structure and the strength and the visibility.
Well, I guess that was also kind of a surprise as you start leading into this a little bit and learning more about it to see the exposed structure, because we're just used to, with aircraft that are flying, you don't see any of that stuff typically, and here it had it all out there, and you thought, well, I guess it doesn't really need the skin but for its needs. You got some stats on its speed?
Yeah, it goes about 105 miles per hour. Cruises is about 84 miles per hour, and it's got a range of about 246 miles. So,
and is it's controllable by a pilot or co-pilot, correct? Or was
yes.
it just pilot, just controls on one side?
No, it was dual. The ones that I saw were most of them dual control.
Dual control, yeah.
Yes. And one of the things I heard one of the pilots talking about is you can't fly the helicopter too fast because I think it's the blade that's going rearward will stall and it will flip the helicopter over. So you've got to watch your speed and not fly too fast.
Well, that would get your attention, wouldn't it?
Well, that would end your day, among other things.
That would be a bad way to end the day, that's for sure.
Definitely.
Yeah.
All right, I have a question. This may be an opinion thing. None of us have flown a helicopter, correct?
Correct.
I mean, at the controls.
I've flown a remote control helicopter. Does that count?
Well, it might.
Does Flight Simulator count? Because I crashed a helicopter on Flight Simulator once.
Well, see, that kind of goes along with my question, because Derrick, you do have several hours in the cockpit of small civilian aircraft.
Mm-hmm.
Is it easier to learn to fly a helicopter without having the fixed wing experience, or are you better off starting fixed wing and going to helicopter?
I have an answer.
Let's hear it, because I've never been in the cockpit of a helicopter, a real helicopter. Significantly different in terms of, the motion and the rotor and everything, but flying is flying, or is it? David, what you got?
Okay.
Go ahead.
I watched a video in researching one of the helicopter shows that we have done in the past, and they were asking one of the instructors that very question. And his answer was, yes, it is easier to teach someone who has never flown before to fly a helicopter, because they don't come in with any preconceived ideas of how to do it. Whereas a pilot of a fixed wing aircraft has experience with fixed wing, so he expects the fixed wing to translate to the helicopter, and they don't. So it's a different environment, a different flight envelope. And so the person who's never experienced fixed wing flight doesn't have those preconceived notions, and it's easier to eliminate the problems. So that's what this instructor said on the video I saw.
And that's interesting, because after flying a Cub mostly through COVID, I was just messing around on Flight Simulator X and picked a helicopter, and it was a complete and utter disaster from the get-go. So yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, it just doesn't do the things you expect it to do, because it's a completely different, hovering is totally foreign to a fixed wing aircraft. And so you just have to rethink it. But so, yeah, that was what I had seen on a video. As one of the instructors was definitely, I'll take a non-pilot over a pilot to teach them.
Interesting.
All right. Well, I wondered about that. Now, again, back to your stats. Now, this helicopter and our pictures that we have behind us, you can see mounted above and behind the cockpit, a couple of fuel tanks. Is that it for the fuel, or was there any internal fuel that it carried?
No, that on the later models, I think there were some that had tanks into the structure more in the earlier models, but for the military, for the Sioux, and they are all those shoulder tanks. And I think I read they were like 57 gallons a piece.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's it for the fuel.
So what was the range on this typically?
246 miles.
Okay. And then obviously with all the different applications that would change.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Carrying passengers in those litters. What did you say they were called? The side carriers?
They were medical evacuation panniers, Panniers.
All right.
Panniers. That's a new word on me. I don't know that one.
See, the History of Aviation podcast is also, we support vocabulary expansion. And
Definitely.
So pay attention, kids.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, there we go.
Something else you were talking about the not having siding on the tail. The tail is flexible, which I didn't really realize. So it bends up and down and side to side, I assume. But they were talking about the shaft that runs from the engine to the tail rotor. It's got shorted pieces so that it flexes back and forth, and all the gears that are in there where it connects are open to the environment, so you have to grease those areas like every 12 hours of flight. And if it rains on the helicopter, you have to flush all the grease out because it collects the water and doesn't work properly. So having it as an open air tail does have some problems because, if you get water in it, you've got to repair it.
Well, I'm confident that makes sense in terms of the design and how it was used, but it seems a little counterintuitive to have that kind of flexibility.
Mm-hmm.
We've all seen unfortunate videos of helicopters that have struck their own tail rotor with the main rotor.
Yep.
Things that have gone wrong, and that to me just seems like it's not the safest way, but it might be ease in maintenance and quick. When you're doing all your pre-flight checks, you can put eyes right on all that stuff and make sure that everything is as it should be before you fly. So there's seems a trade-off, but okay.
No, I mean, the designers tested it. They've got tolerances, and it obviously fit the tolerances.
Well, I was going to say on the helicopter I designed it. Oh, wait, I haven't designed one. I'll just have to trust that they knew what they were doing. And again, as we often say, this helicopter was designed almost 80 years ago. So clearly they were on to something, and very successful design all these years. How many did you say? 5,400 were built?
I think it's 5,600.
Goodness gracious. That's pretty impressive for the first civilian helicopter.
Yeah, it sure is.
The certified civilian helicopter.
And actually, Bell no longer owns the rights to this helicopter. They sold it to what was the name of that company? Scott's Helicopter Services in Le Sueur, Minnesota. That's the company if you need parts or repair or want to buy a new one, because I was reading from about 10 years ago, they were looking at starting the lineup again and building new ones. I didn't see a lot about currently that you can buy one, but with upwards of 1,000 of them still out there in the world flying, they need the parts. And so this Scott's Helicopter Service is who you go to for your parts.
There you go. As we're talking about the Bell 47 here on episode 40 of the History of Aviation podcast, let's jump into closing thoughts, starting with you, Dave Gorman.
Well, as I mentioned, this is a happy memory of childhood at the age of 5 or 6, despite your efforts to ruin it for me with truth and cold, hard facts. I will continue to believe that Adam West as Batman was flying that helicopter, and Robin helped him fight off that shark. That's just me. Also, I watched MASH and watched it in reruns in college, and seeing this helicopter and an iconic design. if you asked most people to draw a helicopter in the 70s, it would have had the soap bubble on the front of it, I'm sure, if they tried, because that's what you saw, that's what you knew. So, and as I mentioned, I've only flown on a single helicopter one time. It was the Bell 47G up at Oshkosh. I can't recommend it enough. The price is right, the time is right, and again, seeing from the air that many aircraft, it's fantastic. Check it out. Great helicopter.
Absolutely.
Yep.
David Rowe, closing thoughts.
This is a beautiful, elegant, simple machine. It's so well designed that you can actually see one at the Museum of Modern Art in New York City. They have one on display because of its design.
As a piece of art.
Exactly. Not as a machine, but as a design, as a piece of art. It is, in a museum for that. But everything about the Bell 47 is functional. It's, no frills, no creature comforts. It's just it's a pure utility helicopter. It's there to do what it does. It's not to be pretty. I heard a quote that Burt Rutan said, if it doesn't help the aircraft fly, then remove it. And that's pretty much what Bell did. It's just the basics that are required to make a helicopter work. And it's been a true workhorse for, 40, 50, 60 years now. So if it's flying 3,000 people in a week, it can do a job that, and does it well. So it's amazing aircraft, and, it's great that we've still got it around and you can actually take a ride in it. So I look forward to making it to Oshkosh.
Yeah, I'm sorry. My flight was very stable. As smooth as can be. The pilot had total control. I felt extremely comfortable with, there was no real hovering, but just coming in for that landing and having that incredible field of view as you're coming around and lining up and everything. It was so awesome.
Well, again, you got that big bubble canopy so you can see it all. And I look forward to getting there and riding one for myself.
Be a great time for sure. And David Rowe, if folks head over to aerophile.com, your website there, will they see a Bell 47 or not caught one yet?
I do not think I'm trying to think if I've got a picture of it from when I was at the Air Force Museum. There might be one in there, but other than that, I have not caught one flying.
One hasn't cruised into Tri-Cities?
No, it has not. So
that would be an interesting day, wouldn't it?
Yes, I would be running to the airport in a big hurry to get that.
And your website's aerophile.com, correct?
That is correct. Come check me out.
And Dave Gorman, where can folks find you on social media?
Well, I do have my YouTube video page at Gormania. And I just checked to see the title of my video from my flight, the Bell 47. It says my flight in a Bell 47 helicopter at AirVenture. It's only 3.5 minutes long or so, but it gives you a chance to see what I'm talking about with the flight and all of the aircraft on the ground. Gormania is it. I'm on Instagram _ it's Dave Gorman. And while there's other content there, I do have a lot of stuff on aircraft, aviation, and air shows as well. One of these days, David's going to help me put together a page just dedicated to my photography. I'm confident, Dave. I'm going to call it Daviation.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
I like it.
You gotta have a catchy name, right?
Aerophile.
I'm telling you, dude. If you haven't copyrighted it or copywritten it, you should, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Good. Check us all out there. Come visit us on social media.
Yeah, and you can see all the History of Aviation podcast social media in the description below. We got a Facebook group. We got a Facebook page. We got a website. We got the Instagram. It's all listed down below. You can simply just click that. I sure did enjoy it, guys.
Yes, absolutely.
Great topic, and enjoyed catching up with you guys. And it is 11 degrees or so in Knoxville right now. David, what do you got up there in Bristol?
Last time I checked, it was about 17 degrees, going down to about 8.
A heat wave up there. Okay.
Yeah, you all got it colder than we did.
Derrick, be careful.
I've got 11 here.
If you guys listening at home, you might as well, since you're sitting around, go back to the archives and check out. Let us know what your favorite episodes are. There's lots to listen to. This is episode number
40.
40. So go back and
there's,
check them all out, folks.
Shoot, we've done the Cessna 172 was they've all been great episodes, but we've done what 172. What's some others that stand out?
I loved our visit to the Tennessee Museum of Aviation with Neil and
Good
Rhonda
time.
Melton up there, and just checking and talking with them about all the great things they're doing in Sevierville. That was awesome.
Oh yeah, Spruce Goose, P-51, Apache helicopters. What else?
Corsair David.
Yeah, I think that one's okay. That's an okay plane. I don't know. It's just blue and it's got the cool wings and Pappy fluid and gosh,
all of those things.
I need to go watch some videos of the Corsair now. Thank you.
That's it. Well, since you're gonna get snowed in, or maybe not snowed in, just colded in.
Froze in.
Yeah. Cool.
All right. I appreciate it, guys, and we'll see everybody next week. So for David Rowe, Dave Gorman, I'm Derrick Beeler. Thanks for listening to the History of Aviation podcast.
This is Joe Morse. You are listening to the History of Aviation podcast with Derrick Beeler, David Rowe, and David Gorman.